Last week at Anime Expo, we saw the world premiere first episode of this year's soon-to-be biggest anime, Dandan. It's an explosion of fun, quick action, snappy comedy, endearing characters, aliens, spirits, and a supernatural romp with a lovable cast, featuring several hot grannies. Renowned studio Science Saru of recent Scott Pilgrim fame is guiding the project, so there's reason for excitement. And Naoyuki Onda, seasoned animation director and character designer for Psycho Pass and Ergo Proxy and Rage of Bahamut and the Berserk films, is handling the human character designs, while creature designs, and there are many creatures, are being done by the wonderful Yoshimichi Kameda, one of the most well-respected and well-known action animators in the industry, with significant contributions to Mob Psycho 100 and Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood. Dandadan is shaping up to be great, and it's all anyone is going to be talking about after it releases on Netflix, Crunchyroll, and Hulu this October. But my friend and erstwhile channel guest, Sen, noticed something about how episode 1 handled the rather risque content of the manga that reminded me a bit more about Revolutionary Girl Utena than anything else. So, let's talk tits.
Before we talk tits, I wanted to talk about about another uh non titty scene in the first episode. It's when Turbo Granny is you when you first see Turbo Granny, the spirit possessing the main character, and it's this very weird, creepy scene where the spirit is like very like The Ring esque, crawling through the phone screen um, into the scene that we're in, and in the manga, this scene is probably given like two panels. The action happens over a very short period of time while you're reading, but this one cut where Turbo Granny is crawling out of the phone, so much time uh, is spent on just animating this one part where it's creepy. There's lots of I suspect that I have a suspicion that Yoshimichi Kameda may have animated this part himself, but it's very much in line with his style, very dynamic, and there's lots of distortion and warping. It's a very creepy scene, and
Yeah.
so much time is dedicated to just this scene that's very well animated and just sets tone. Um, nothing else is really going on in this one
Yeah.
scene.
Yeah,
Um,
it was gross. It was off-putting. It was like
yeah,
otherworldly in the way that it was
spooky.
intended
Yep.
to be, right?
Yeah, it's
But you
scary.
were but
Um,
your point was to the animation budget here, right? How, the
right.
allocation of resources.
The resources and time spent on this one part of production, and then
I wish we could show people here, but obviously this hasn't been
right.
released yet, so we're going
Yeah.
to have the manga panels here, and you're going to to
Right.
imagine
You can
just spending
imagine.
the most amount of resources. I have a video on the Budget Smile and Hibike Euphonium on the channel, and just like imagine that of like way too much character animation
Right.
here
And
for these two panels.
it probably happens over, I don't know, 7, 8 seconds, but like that's a lot of time for one cut to be happening. Um, and then I would like to contrast that with one of the fan service scenes that we get to see in the first episode, um, which is the when Momo, the one of the main characters, when she first encounters the aliens and she first gets abducted, she begins to run away, and these alien guys grab her and rip her clothes off. Um, and in the first episode, it's not quote unquote animated. It uses, I believe it was three still frames, and these frames are taken directly from the manga. The drawings are identical, but it struck me as um, a weird choice to not fully animate this, to just have these snapshots, these still frames, instead of just fully animating it, because there are other times when fan service occurs in the first episode, and it's fully animated, but this scene was not,
And it's
and
and it could have been, right? It could have been a very
certainly
exploitative, very sexual. You mentioned that it could have been something that people clip and share on Reddit,
right,
in like a
and
kill a
that's
kill
why
sort of way, out of
right,
context.
and that's why I it strikes me as such a deliberate choice to not animate this scene specifically, because and I think one of the reasons why this scene in particular, out of all of the fan service scenes, was not fully animated, was because there's not really anything else going on in this cut. It's just like you aren't even 100% sure that she's being abducted. It's just her getting her clothes ripped off. Um, and then in other scenes where she's just like in her underwear, in other scenes, uh that are fully animated, there's other things going on in the scene. The fan service is certainly present, but there are the viewer's focus is shared between the fan service and whatever else is going on in the scene. um
So it's as if the director is saying, now's not the time to be ogling the main character or consuming them in this way. And this is not the
right,
point of what I'm trying to convey. And
or
yeah,
and not even, I'm not even sure that it's to completely eradicate the sexuality from that scene. I think it's more of like to maintain a balance of the focus of this anime, that like there is certainly fan service and they are showing the fan service, um but it's not, it's taking a very like metered approach to how they want this content to be consumed,
yeah.
and by you know limiting the animation and limiting the resources for this specific scene, it deliberately forces the fan to pay attention to other things, even though the fan surface is
Right. To
there and
engage.
she's a pretty
Right.
girl, and
Right. Yeah, yeah. As a viewer, are forced by the director's choice to engage with certain aspects of the reading, and
right,
maybe not ones that
right,
you would choose to engage with. Or if a different director made different decisions, then you could possibly open up some other avenues of consumption of that work.
certainly.
And that's the exact way that it reminded me so much of the famous clip episode of Revolutionary Girl Utena, episode 33, when the Ikuhara does the same exact thing of controlling your voyeurism and your consumption in this way to force you into the point of view of Akio, who is sexually consuming, very literally, Utena's innocence. And anybody who has watched Revolutionary Girl Utna all the way through knows exactly what this episode does and exactly how this episode portrays Utna in this way that invites this very specific sexual consumption and desire. And a larger textual analysis of RGU will tell you more about the nuances there and how that applies thematically back to the characters and everything that that show wants to say. But I think it's a brilliant thing that we saw a similar level of control by the director and a similar level of identifying exactly what Dandan should be, or how
Mm-hmm.
this interpretation or this director's interpretation of what Dandan is um, should be conveyed to the audience with
Right.
no ambiguity.
And having the discretion to you know control how it will be consumed, um I think shows a lot of directorial prowess, um
Yeah, yeah,
because like I
a
said,
lot of confidence.
it's not erasing the fan service, not in the least.
Yeah, and that would that
It
would be dishonest to Dandadan as a manga, right?
Right, exactly. It's just it's like maintaining the balance of what Dan to Dan is tonally. That it's not there is fan service, it's not a fan service show. And like you said before, I think that if that scene was fully animated and was very gratuitous, I think that it would be clipped and shared around and is not necessarily representative of, the
The
rest of the show.
fun, yeah, action romp that
Yeah.
Dandadan could
Yeah.
be. Yeah. Well, that's exactly what I love about media and discerning authorial intent in such clear examples of this. And I love the way of using sexuality and knowing your audience. I love it,
Hmm.
and I love that you brought it up in the reading of this. There's everything to look forward to with Dandadan in the future, and I highly recommend that everybody watch it, even if you are, a hardcore Magical Girl fan or anything. Not big on action. I'm not myself, but I still would heartily recommend Dandadan.
Is that it? We do it? First take?